What if Joffrey and Sansa married and had a child? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. For the first time in many months, the mood in King's Landing is merry, and for good reason, too. At long last, relief has arrived for the Smallfolk as the Tyrells bring their army and, more importantly, the grain and fruits of the Reach. With that is the assurance that the people may at least eat well without fear of starvation. And for the nobility, they have salvation from Stannis Baratheon and comfort in that Joffrey can sit upon the throne in peace. Yet, as these celebrations commence, there are now discussions about the rewards, which is why the small council is gathered here. Most of them are reasonable enough and pass without any problem, granting monetary rewards and knighthoods to fighters who distinguished themselves, lands to lords who performed great feats, and marriage pacts to some allies the crown wishes to court. Trouble begins when it comes to the greatest prize of them all. That is rewarding Mace Tyrell and his family, particularly by granting them a marriage alliance to bring them into the royal family.
He wishes to marry my son, truly.
It is a fitting reward, according to Mace Tyrell. He claims that his forces played an instrumental role in saving the city and your son's crown. Therefore, it is only fair that he be allowed to join.
Lord Tyrell best remember his place if he wishes to remain in the crown's good graces.
Still, the Tyrells were instrumental in our victory, Cersei. They are deserving of such a reward. Besides, it also brings benefits to our cause. Our family will gain access to their wealth and their harvest, two things we will need in the coming war.
Best not to make that fact too obvious. Speaking as a changer of money myself, a man who knows of another man's need often finds himself charging more for his services. And Lord Tyrell seems to be the type of man to demand a league when given a yard. Perhaps a lesser reward might be more satisfactory.
Mace Tyrell already knows he can get into the royal family. He will not accept anything less. You can be certain of that.
Yes, indeed. Plus, the Stark girl is hardly a politician, and she has few allies. She would be easier to control. It would ensure Winterfell remains loyal to us.
And how can you be certain the Tyrells will accept that?
Never fear, Lord Tywin. I will make sure of that.
In the end, Tywin does come around when he sees the benefits of this proposal and is happy to leave the details to Littlefinger. While many expect Mace to be the main obstacle, Lord Baelish easily circumvents this by going to Lady Olenna. He simply mentions Joffrey's unsavory reputation and provides a list of the unsavory things he's witnessed over the last few months. He also provides some witnesses who can verify Joffrey's savagery. In turn, she strong-arms Mace into reconsidering his proposal and gives the same reasons Littlefinger does about Sansa. Tommen is more malleable and would allow the Tyrells greater power. Mace eats all this up until the day of the award ceremony. One day, they bring this marriage pact forward.
My sister Marjorie, her husband was taken from us before. I would ask you to find it in your heart to do us the great honor of joining our houses.
Is this what you want, Lady Marjorie?
With all my heart, Your Grace. Tales of your courage and wisdom have never been far from my ears, and those tales have taken root deep inside of me.
I too have heard tales of your beauty and grace. It would be an honor to return your love. But I am promised to another. A king must keep his word.
The Tyrells make a show of being upset, just as Tywin had anticipated, and that is when he nudges Joffrey, who sits up and continues.
However, that is not to say that our houses cannot be joined. I have a brother, young Tommen Lannister. He is sweet and kind, and would be honored if you would consider him as a groom for you, Lady Marjorie.
Tommen, I would be honored, Your Grace. Rest assured, I will always be a dutiful wife to your brother, and treat him as though he were king.
Joffrey smiles and thanks her for this, and the Tyrells drop to one knee in response. The whole court roars in approval. They clap and cheer for this marriage pact. All except for Sansa. She watches the whole exchange, her face ashen and her body stiff. The marriage pact is still on. The rest of the award ceremony proceeds without any further incident, but she barely hears it. With Robb as the only major threat to the Lannisters' domination in the Seven Kingdoms, having a Stark hostage becomes more valuable. This makes it imperative that Joffrey impregnates Sansa so that they can have an heir to claim Winterfell. Olenna understands this as well, and recognizes that their heir wouldn't just claim the North, but also all of the Seven Kingdoms. That is why she must ensure this never comes to pass. Weeks follow, and the wedding ceremony is organized, and they agree to have it take place after Sansa's first flowering. The young Stark wishes that the day never comes to pass, but that is unfortunately impossible, and just a few weeks after the ceremony, it happens. Despite her best efforts to hide her period, the servants notice it, and the wedding feast is organized. The event is planned to take place at the end of the month, leaving Sansa terrified as she dreads the day. She spends as little time as possible in court, preferring to lock herself in her room. Yet none of that stops the wedding that arrives sooner than she would have liked. Even the Tyrells cease their requests and complaints to join the festivities, as course after course of food is brought out. While they dine, they are entertained by singers, jugglers, and even a pyrotechnics show. All of this showcases the splendor of the crown. After these festivities come to an end, the bedding ceremony begins, and Sansa finds herself sitting alone in her bed, shivering just as the door opens. Joffrey arrives, smiling evilly as the door shuts behind him. A month later, Sansa senses a change in her body, and the Lannisters are quick to send maesters to check up on her. There, they proclaim that she is with child. The whole court erupts in celebration upon hearing this. The line will continue, and the kingdom has a royal heir. Tywin watches this from a distance, grim satisfaction on his face. Yet the Tyrells watch this development with growing concern. This pushes their claim on the Iron Throne back further, as this baby and any other children they might have will be placed ahead of the line of succession. But at the same time, there is also an opportunity. The Lannisters' guard is down, and from the shadows, Olenna strikes. Poison is purchased and slipped into Joffrey's food while he eats one night. The next day, he is found dead in his bed, and poison is suspected. Yet to make matters worse, Tywin soon falls sick and dies of a sickness of the bowels. This time, the Tyrells are surprised, as they had no hand in it, but this gives them the opening they need. Olenna is quick to point out that the Dornish have long despised the Lannisters, Tywin especially. They also left right after the wedding. The Red Viper has had a long reputation for using poison, and Cersei eats it all up. She curses them and demands that Prince Oberyn return to court and present himself for the trial. Yet this time, Prince Doran refuses this request. They demand that the court present evidence to justify this claim before he hands his brother over to them. A flurry of heated letters is exchanged, growing increasingly hostile, with Cersei even threatening invasion. Tyrion tries desperately to calm the situation, but is sidelined even further as Cersei steps up as the Queen Dowager. And yet in that confusion, Sansa Stark disappears. Olenna has no intention of killing her or her child, but to groom them to become Tyrell allies. Yet, when Marjorie comes to visit her, she finds the Queen is gone. She is secretly spirited away from the city by Ser Dantos, who visits her in the dead of night and uses the secret passages of the Red Keep. She remembers little of the journey, and the next thing she remembers, she finds herself standing on the deck of a ship as Littlefinger steps out from the shadows. The former Master of Coin smiles and introduces him as a friend who has promised to save her, but rather than take her to Winterfell, he insists they travel to the Vale first until they can be certain of its safety. People are less likely to look for her there. When they arrive, Sansa Stark is gone, replaced with Olenna Stone, bastard daughter of Littlefinger. If anyone asks, she was rescued by her father after discovering she was pregnant by a septim. Most people are happy to accept this, and they manage to secure the support of Lysa Arryn, who promises to help them once things have quieted down. Yet privately, Littlefinger speaks to Sansa about this matter.
My dear wife is always thinking about little Robin. She thinks that revealing your child might risk bringing the Lannisters' attention to the Vale, and fears that they may take away her son. But she fails to see the opportunity that awaits us.
Opportunity?
Indeed. In your belly is the heir to the Seven Kingdoms. That child will one day sit on the Iron Throne. Right now, you have the potential to be the most powerful woman in the Seven Kingdoms.
But I don't want to rule anymore. I just want to go home. I'm not even sure I want this baby. Not from him.
Sansa, I understand what you must be feeling. To have to carry a child of that monster is a great burden to bear. But the child is not at fault for it. Do you truly wish for them to bear your anger?
No, I suppose not. But to rule the Seven Kingdoms, that's the Lannisters' ambitions, not mine. I don't want to rule. I don't want to play this game.
I'm afraid that we are far past that point, my dear. You have that child, and even if you run to Winterfell, the Tyrells will not leave you at peace. They will always see you as a threat to their rule. This is the Game of Thrones, and you only win or you die.
But the Tyrells are so powerful. How can I win? You said it yourself. I'm a piece of the game.
Don't be so hard on yourself, girl. We are all pieces in this game, but I can help you become a player.
Soon enough, they move to the Eyrie, where Littlefinger marries Lysa, effectively becoming ruler of House Arryn and the Vale. With that power, he begins to look for a potential marriage for Sansa. Now that she is a widow, she can marry once more and get their backing. He soon identifies a suitable match, Harold Harding, or Harry the Heir. Lady Waynwood tries to stop this marriage by saying Harold must consent to it, but that proves easy enough. Once Littlefinger reveals everything to him, the young squire determines that such a marriage will make him the father of the next king or queen. He eagerly agrees, excited at the prospect of flying higher than the Eyrie. This also appeases Lysa, as she sees it as removing a rival who might threaten her son. With that, they can be assured of the Vale's support in the coming war. They can also hopefully gain the support of the North, as though they are allied with the Lannisters. Littlefinger believes they may be able to sway them, along with the Riverlands. He sends secret letters to the Boltons, offering to help them and have Sansa publicly recognize the Boltons as rulers of the North if they back her. Yet, the time is not right to reveal themselves, and he instructs them to speak nothing of this until the time is right. Meanwhile, the South is still grappling with the loss of Tywin Lannister. His death means that Cersei is now effectively in charge of their house. The departure of Sansa raises suspicions that she may have been responsible for Joffrey's death. Cersei is certain of it. She knows that Sansa has long resented Joffrey for murdering her father, and probably did this for revenge. A reward is offered to whoever can bring her back information about her whereabouts. While she tries to make peace with Dorne, they do not take kindly to the accusations and remain chilly. They even refuse to send back Marcella, seeing her as a valuable hostage. Yet the Queen has little commitment to that, as she is now focusing on her efforts to fight the Tyrells. In the wake of Joffrey's death, Tommen was then crowned king. They waste no time in reasserting their control over him, as his betrothed, Marjorie, spends all her time with him, visiting the houses around King's Landing and attending public events that win the public over. They help rebuild houses, offer bread to the poorest, and attend prayer services in the Sept of Baelor. The Tyrells prepare speeches for Tommen to repeat, reiterating the Reach's commitment to providing aid to the city in these troubling times. This is done to gain the support of the Smallfolk, but also to challenge the growing power of the Sparrows, who begin to arrive in the city by the hundreds. These holy men preach against the excess of the nobility and how their greed has caused the War of the Five Kings. While many Smallfolk voice their support, the Tyrells manage to insulate themselves from this anger, and Tommen, who's long been seen as a sweet child and is equally beloved. She also encourages the boy king to take a more independent action from Cersei, reminding him that, as king, he must learn to act on his own. The Tyrells offer to guide him, with Loras acting as his sworn shield, and show him how to ride horse and practice with wooden swords. This ire falls instead to Tyrion and Cersei, who find themselves increasingly sidelined. Kevin is alienated by Cersei, who urges cooperation. Tyrion fares little better, as though he retains his position as Master of Coin. It is only because she does not wish it to go to one of Mace Tyrell's cronies. In practice, she does not listen to a word that he says. Instead, Cersei looks for ways to undermine their power, and her gaze turns to the Sparrows who flood the streets. Although they despise her, the Tyrells carefully avoid granting them any power. Their actions certainly appear pious, but they ensure that they are kept at arm's length. Instead, Cersei secretly begins meeting with the High Sparrow and gathering her allies. There, she offers him the promise of power and greater influence in court, yet this power struggle prevents them from supporting their allies beyond the Seven Kingdoms. In the Riverlands, war rages as the Freys are busy dealing with the remaining Stark holdouts. In the north, Stannis reemerges and begins rallying the Northmen in a rebellion against the Boltons. They send letters to the capital, urging them to send support. While Cersei and the Tyrells are unable to do anything, Littlefinger intercepts this message and offers a secret alliance. Vale support in exchange for supporting Sansa when the time is right. The new Warden of the North is happy to accept these terms, and plans are made to sail to Dreadfort. Lysa needs little convincing. She still resents Stannis for attempting to take Robin to be fostered in Dragonstone. An expeditionary force under the command of Sir Lyn Corbray and Harold Harding is organized. To their surprise, Sansa wishes to join them too. Most wish for her to remain in the Vale, but she wishes to see her home. Soon, a force of close to 7,000 men sails out. They make landfall on the Dreadfort, where they are welcomed with open arms. By the time they arrive, Stannis' forces have grown and become a considerable threat. Many houses like the Glovers, Umbers, and Mormonts have pledged themselves to their cause. Some, like the Manderleys, remain neutral, while houses loyal to the Boltons are questionable at best. The Valemen are provided with guides that escort them to Winterfell. They take them to the villages who have already accepted the Bolton rule. These small folk all cheer at the arrival of Lady Stark and shout blessings toward Lord Roose, all while cursing Stannis as a traitor and an invader. She watches all of this with narrowed eyes. It seems convincing, but the young woman who escaped King's Landing is now gone. Under Littlefinger's guidance, she is educated in politics, studying from the Valemen how to engage in diplomacy and manipulate others. In that time, she has grown increasingly critical of Littlefinger and his ideas. He repeatedly assures her of his commitment to helping her, but she begins to doubt some of the things he says. He claims he wishes to help bring her home, but now he's saying that she should relinquish her ancestral title. In the past, he had said that this is her way to secure rule and to punish the Lannisters by taking their claim to the Iron Throne. But he has her working with the likes of Roose Bolton, who had aided in the slaughter of her brother and his men. Her decision to travel north wasn't just made to return home. It is also time to begin reasserting her position. She starts by deciding which position their army will pass. Rather than continue along the King's Road, Sansa orders the army to change positions and instead travel directly south, passing the Hornwood lands. Some of the Bolton's men are concerned, as these areas have recently been added to the Dreadfort's domains. But Sansa is insistent.
It would reassure House Hornwood that the Starks have not forgotten them.
Many of the Bolton men cannot argue with that, and the army shifts. Here, Sansa sees the change. In Roose's domains, everything is carefully airbrushed to show a supportive and loyal people. Here, the people are fearful. Few come out to meet them, and many shut themselves up in their hovels. Others regard her with barely concealed fear or hatred. But it is confirmation that Bolton's rule is not as strong as it initially appears. When they receive word that the people here are worried about bandits, Sansa has a nearby castle garrisoned with Valemen, under the command of a hedge knight she had taken into her service. This man sends a secret letter to Lord Manderley, the largest lord who had not yet declared for either side. While staying in Hornwood Castle itself, Sansa meets with the steward and assesses the situation. And while she remains there, a party arrives from the White Knife, as Lord Wyman personally comes out to visit them, accompanied by close to 100 knights. He smiles and spreads his arms wide in greeting to Sansa, as if she were his granddaughter. But once they are alone in the Lord's solar, his smile fades.
Lady Sansa, so the rumors are true. I have visited your father many times, and I recognize you. But I must ask, do you intend to declare for House Bolton?
There is much I don't know now. So much has changed in the north. I wish to figure out what is going on before making my decision. More importantly, I wish to know who will back my claim.
Your claim? Surely you must know that the Boltons have been granted command over the north. They claim to have your sister with them, but make no mistake, they will never let you keep Winterfell, even if you ally with them.
I'm not talking about Winterfell, my lord. I'm referring to my son's claim to the Iron Throne.
The Iron Throne? Surely you jest.
I assure you I am not, Lord Manderley. I was wed to Joffrey Baratheon. It was a mercifully short union, but not short enough that it did not produce an heir. His name is Eddard Stark, and he shall rule the Seven Kingdoms. Lord Bolton has offered to recognize his claim, and even send men in support of that.
I see. I must admit that it is too much to take in. But perhaps you know that his support amongst the northern houses and the Smallfolk is not as solid as you would like. More importantly, there is more to the Bolton treachery that you do not realize. The sack of Winterfell was not done by Ironborn hands, but by the flayed man. His bastard spawn, Ramsay, led the charge. I have men who served that battle who swear their lives on it. And that is just the beginning. I am certain he did not mention how your youngest brother Rickon still lives. He is hiding in Skagos, and I have sent men to retrieve him.
For the first time since she's arrived, Sansa finds herself at a loss for words. She looks at Lord Manderley in surprise, but the old man's gaze remains firm with iron certainty. Sansa feels her breath catch in her throat, but she swallows and composes herself.
And if he returns, will you support his bid as Lord of Winterfell?
Why, of course, my lady. After all, you will be too busy ruling the Seven Kingdoms in King's Landing.
In that case, I will hear what you have in mind.
The two of them discuss their plans throughout the night, and by morning Sansa issues a new announcement. She wishes for their claim to be further strengthened and requests that her son be sent to the Dreadfort to those who wish to see him have a chance. Doing so will put many lords at ease, as House Stark will continue. Rather than sending this letter to Littlefinger, she instead sends it to Lady Arryn and the Vale Lords. She frames it as her wishing for her son to see the North, for which she is from, and perhaps her worry of being separated from her child. To the gallant Valemen and Lysa who worry the same thing, they understand this and all support. While Littlefinger tries to protest, he is outvoted and must reluctantly yield to their demands, and Eddard is sent on a ship. But rather than heading to the Dreadfort, it is instead sailed to White Harbor, where Wyman vows to keep the babe safe. Snow thickens into a blizzard as the Crofters' village braces for slaughter. Stannis Baratheon stands grim in the storm, sword in hand, frost stiffening his face. Around him, his men are gaunt, cold, and starving, but their eyes are hard as iron. They, especially the Northmen, are committed to this fight. When the enemy riders crest the hill and prepare to charge, men simply draw their swords and brace themselves for the charge.
Stand fast. You are the king's men, my men. No fray, no Bolton carrion will unmake us. Stand and fight.
The Freys come first, whooping and laughing, their banners of twin towers snapping in the gale. They fall on the shield wall with eagerness, but Stannis holds the line. Spears thrust through padded jerkins, men topple into the snow, shrieking, watering the snow with their blood. Yet Gordy Faring laughs and sweeps his sword around, urging his men to stand firm. He cuts through the Frey men-at-arms and urges his men to hold. Despite Host and Frey's best efforts, they do not yield. The Boltons press harder behind them, cavalry circling, arrows whistling down. One knight tries to charge Stannis, but the king cuts him from the saddle with a single savage stroke. Still, the truth weighs heavily. His men tire, the wall buckles, and soon they will be overwhelmed. They have no horse to escape or to organize a countercharge. Their only hope is to hold off until nightfall. Then, horns. From the forest comes the thunder of hooves. A host of knights burst through the snow, lances lowered, banners streaming. The Falcon of the Vale gleams silver, but at its heart flies the direwolf of Stark, and riding beneath it is Sansa Stark herself, tall and stern, auburn hair streaming like fire in the wind. Her voice rings across the battlefield, clear as a bell.
Northmen, with me! Strike the traitors!
The effect is instant. Bolton men falter, some cry out in confusion, others throw down arms and flee. Many turn cloaks outright, swinging on their supposed masters to fight for the wolf. Sansa's knights slam into the Bolton flank with terrible force, and at once the trap is sprung.
Forward! Forward for the king!
Hammer and anvil. The Bolton army breaks under the crush. Their banners fall into the bloody snow. The Freys scatter like frightened hares. Men scream, steel rings, and the flayed man is trampled into slush. When silence finally comes, the dire wolf and the crowned stag alone fly above the field. The rest of the Northmen in Winterfell, Cerwyns, Dustins, and Hornwoods open the gates for the Starks, and the men stream inside, welcoming the king and the queen. When Sansa arrives, two figures greet her from the other camps. Jane Pooley, who was made to pretend to be Arya Stark, and her brother Rickon, who arrived from White Harbor. As she approaches them, both break into tears and embrace her. She finds herself stroking their backs.
It is okay. You two are safe now.
I thought I'd never see you again. The Boltons did terrible things to me. They're monsters.
They burned our home down.
I understand. Don't worry. They won't ever hurt you again. I promise. But please, both of you rest. You don't have to worry anymore.
Winterfell's hall roars with firelight that night, but the air is colder than the storm outside. Lords and bannermen crowd beneath the high rafters, their voices rising in fierce argument. At the head, Stannis sits rigid, hands gripping the arms of the chair as though it were his throne. Beside him, Sansa stands tall, Rickon clutching her hand, Janie Pooley pale at her other side.
The wolf is returned, my lords. The blood of Eddard Stark lives in his children. Shall we bend the knee to a Southron knight while the rightful heir of Winterfell stands before us?
I do not seek to claim Winterfell from them, but if they bend the knee, then I will gladly leave them in their seat.
Begging your pardon, but that is not the only claim we must discuss.
If you are referring to Stark kinship, Robb Stark made himself king and lost. I am the rightful heir of Robert Baratheon, the only true king. If your Lady Sansa married a bastard born of incest, that does not grant her the right to rule. Joffrey's line was tainted from the start. My only faction represents justice.
Justice? For whom, Lord Stannis? For the Northmen who froze at your side, or for the children murdered at the Red Wedding Feast? Justice for the burned villages that skinned men hanging from Bolton trees? Justice lies in our blood. The Starks were kings before your line was ever dreamed of. You speak of Joffrey's line as being tainted, I know that. More than you ever could, Your Grace. However, the realm has recognized my son's claim, including the Northmen who fight in your army. Surely that must count for something.
A murmur ripples through the lords. The Northmen and Vale lords all lean closer to Sansa, preparing to give their support. Meanwhile, Stannis' men all reach for their swords. The tension looks ready to boil over, but Sir Davos steps forward.
My lords, my lady, I know little of these politics, but I understand this. Both of you have suffered great wrongs. I will not deny that. But to try and commit more wrongs is not justice. This war will only bleed our sides dry. We must find a compromise.
And what do you suggest, sir?
Milady, you wish for your son to rule, but he is but a boy. It will be close to 20 years until he shall be able to rule. In that time, you must prepare him and build his council. Surely you recognize that Stannis is an experienced general and ruler. His aid as a regent or hand would be useful.
You wish for him to train my boy? I suppose that makes sense. I am no master politician. Any help I receive will be welcome.
And Your Grace, if you accept this, you will be allowed to rule as regent, effectively as king. You will also have ample opportunity to groom this boy to be a king worthy of being followed. Surely that is part of your duty as well.
So be it. I will serve. But mark me well, this war is not done. And when the realm is saved, none will doubt who kept the fire burning in the cold. And if this boy becomes another Joffrey, I will not hesitate to put him down.
Then let it be so. The wolf and the stag together, as my father and your brother once did. For the North, for the realm, for the future.
The hall erupts in cheers, lords striking their cups against the tables, until the sound is like rolling thunder. For the first time since the Red Wedding, the North is united. Yet before they can even consider marching out, they receive word from the Wall. It is written in a hurried scrawl as the men report a mutiny, and Jon Snow was killed. The remaining loyalists have holed up in the Lord's Tower with Melisandre and her men. They require urgent aid in restoring order. Both the king and queen recognize the need to aid the Night's Watch. Stannis cannot abandon them after he had saved them before, and knows they must protect the realm of men. Meanwhile, Sansa wishes to avenge her brother. They gather their swiftest riders and assemble a force of nearly 1,000 men to ride back to Castle Black. Along the way, they ride along the Gift, where they find wildlings watching the commotion with growing concern. Many of them are warriors, tensed and ready to protect their people if necessary. But Stannis makes them an offer. Rather than simply allow them to defend themselves, he offers them a chance to march with them. Many jump at the chance to kill crows once again, and others are eager to defend their new homes. Among those who volunteer is Magnar the Thenn, who commands 200 warriors and recently wed Elise Karstark. Their house quickly pledges itself to their cause, and together with hundreds of wildlings, they rush Castle Black. The mutineers are not expecting a battle, and their stronghold is not designed to withstand an attack from the rear. Though they try to organize a defense, they are swiftly overwhelmed by the attackers, whose cavalry sweeps through them. Seeing this, the loyalists also rush out, swords in hand, and this battle turns into a slaughter. Within an hour, they have regained full control of Castle Black. Yet when they enter the tower, they do not find a corpse, but Jon Snow alive and well, though the stab marks in his chest confirm the mutiny. Rather than remain as Lord Commander, Jon Snow leaves the Night's Watch and joins them as their general. Meanwhile, in the south, the situation has deteriorated further. Cersei's attempts to court the High Sparrow have blown up in her face. She has offered to arm the Faith once again to gain their support and use the Faith militant to serve as her private army. Tyrion has repeatedly urged her against this course of action, but when the Queen refused to see reason, he decided to leave the city, knowing that his many sins would make them a target. Yet, Cersei remains oblivious and continues to try and wrestle influence from the Tyrells. She tries to build a case against Margaery, claiming that she had committed adultery against her son, and that she is not the innocent, kind queen that anyone had expected. While this works, it works too well, as the Faith is emboldened with their recent success and has Cersei arrested as well. Now she finds herself facing a trial by combat over charges of fornication, adultery, and regicide. Margaery also faces a similar trial for adultery, But while things might look bleak, there is a glimmer of hope as Cersei has found a new champion, Sir Robert Strong. The Sept of Baelor groans under the weight of thousands. Its marble steps spill with the press of Smallfolk. All come to see judgment by combat. The Faith Militant lines the square, armored and grim, their 7-pointed stars catching the sun. The High Sparrow stands above them all. The Faith's champion emerges, a cloaked man in plain robes, face hidden. The crowd murmurs uneasily.
This is your champion? A gravedigger dragged from the mud.
When he casts back the hood, a gasp ripples through the square. His face is half burned, his beard ragged, but his eyes blaze cold fire. Sandor Clegane, the Hound. Suddenly, her laughter dies out as she stares at the man who hefts his longsword. Her own champion arrives. Sir Robert Strong lumbers forward, black armor gleaming like midnight, taller than all men, silent as death.
You always were too big for your own good, brother.
The duel begins with thunder. Strong's greatsword falls like a smith's hammer, smashing stone when it misses. Sandor moves with desperate ferocity, ducking, rolling, striking back with shield and steel. Sparks fly in the winter sun. Unlike anyone who faced Gregor before, the Hound does not break. He fights with rage, sharpened into purpose. When the massive knight's blade falls, he catches and holds it, perhaps the only person who manages to hold his attack at bay. But then he counters, slashing his sword at his sides and driving against his armor. Steel rings, blows that should kill a man only stagger him. Sandor hacks at the giant's joints, scrapes steel across the breastplate and helm. Once, twice, thrice. Wounds that should cripple. Still, the giant does not fall. The Hound snarls, drives his blade hard, and then splits the helm with a crunch. The visor shatters away, and silence drowns the square. Beneath the helm there is no face, only a blackened stump, stitched and oozing, a headless corpse reeking of rot.
Abomination! This is no man!
The crowd erupts in terror. Some cross themselves, others scream for judgment and fire.
This creature is not of the Seven. It is a mockery. Then let me send him back to hell.
Sandor does not hesitate. With a roar, he swings his sword, buries it deep into the corpse knight's neck. Steel rips sinew. The giant topples with an earth-shaking crash. The mountain is dead at last. The Faith lift their voices as one. Guilty. Cersei screams denial, her voice echoing through the sept. On the morrow, the square fills again. This time, Margaery Tyrell walks out in white and roses, her beauty radiant, her face serene. She bows her head but does not falter. The Faith presents their champion, Sir Galban of the Warrior's Sons, a knight famed for his piety and strength. He lifts his sword high.
Who speaks for the Queen?
The crowd murmurs. All have heard the whispers. Sir Loras Tyrell is broken, burned at Dragonstone, dying. Then a knight steps forward in silvered armor. He lifts his helm, and the crowd erupts. Yet all of that was careful deception, aimed at forcing Cersei's hand and getting her to act.
Rumors of my death were greatly exaggerated. I shall champion my sister's innocence.
The duel is swift and fierce. Sir Galban strikes with righteous fury, each blow like thunder, but Loras moves like water, quick, smooth, his blade flashing sunlight. He parries, twists, counters with elegance born of tourneys and war. At last, he feints, slides beneath Galban's guard, and drives his sword clean through the gaps in the gorget. Blood spurts. The knight stumbles, and the Faith's champion collapses lifeless on the stones.
By the judgment of the Seven, Queen Margaery is innocent.
The crowd roars, roses fly, and Margaery Tyrell basks in triumph. Her champion kneels at her side, unbowed and victorious. With that, Margaery is acquitted, and now reigns unchallenged over King's Landing. She is soon joined by her grandmother. Although Mace Tyrell is officially named Hand of the King, in truth, he cannot make any decision without his mother's approval. Tommen is now left completely under their influence. Slowly, they get him to begin repealing some of the privileges given to the Sparrows by Cersei. Levies from the Reach are brought over and placed under the command of Randyll Tarly. They are commanded to disarm the Sparrows throughout the Crownlands. The Warrior's Sons and Poor Fellows are offered a chance to serve in the regular army against Sansa, but nothing more. Unsurprisingly, this leads to widespread conflict as clashes break out between the Reachmen and the Faith Militant. However, when it comes to actual fighting, the clashes prove one-sided. Many of these new holy orders are newly made warriors with little arms and armor, and against the well-equipped soldiers of the Reach, it is one-sided. They also threaten to block any further shipments into the city, which will lead to starvation and turn people against the High Sparrow. Given the debacle of his dual trial by combat, his popularity is starting to fade. However, all of this distracts the ruling Tyrells from the threat in the north. Now unified, the Northmen, Valemen, and the Wildlings march south to regroup with the rest of the Vale army. Yet they find their way blocked in the Twins. With the Freys weakened from an earlier battle, some lords think that they can starve them out, but Sansa has a different plan. He knows many of the River Lords are just waiting for a chance to rise up against the Freys, but they must stay their blades because of how many hostages were taken in the Red Wedding. However, many of these hostages were taken by the Westerlands, so Sansa writes them a letter and offers to parley. At first, Stannis, Jon, and the others are incredulous about this, but as Sansa explains things, they begin to see her point. Kevan and Tyrion are now the two most influential members of their house. They are also the most reasonable, and even Jon admits that he is fond of Tyrion. This makes them hope that they can strike up a peace agreement with the two. A message soon arrives, agreeing to negotiate, and the meeting is set in the Golden Tooth, where Stannis uses his few remaining ships to take them there. The trio arrives under the banner of House Stark and Baratheon. When they do, the Golden Lion is now waiting for them. Tyrion offers them a crooked grin, but Kevan is more somber, watching the three warily as they gather around the table.
So, the wayward queen at last returns, and she brings back her pets. And so the dwarf of Castle Rock shows himself again. Good to see you, Lord Snow. I suppose the wall didn't quite work out.
Enough, Lord Stannis, Lady Stark. I am certain you did not call this meeting merely to trade barbs.
Indeed. We called it because we have much to discuss. Right now the throne is occupied by usurpers, some with even less legitimacy than either of us. Though we might have our differences, we can agree that the Tyrells are a threat to both our dynasties.
An alliance. Now I must admit I am surprised by this.
Why would you be surprised, sir? The ones who started this war, Robb, Tywin, Cersei, and Joffrey, are all gone. We are just the ones left to pick up the pieces after. We have no reason to fight, not when we can back the same candidate. There is one who will provide both our houses with a seat at the table.
Your son, little...
Eddard.
Eddard? How fitting. Your proposal is intriguing. An alliance between our houses would be useful. Do you forget we also have ties to House Tyrell? Marjorie is married to Tommen. We would be fighting against our own if we joined you.
I have not forgotten that, sir. But perhaps you recognize it changes nothing. The Tyrells do not care whether or not he has a Lannister blood in him. They are interested only in him because he provides them with a chance to claim the throne. Make no mistake, once Tommen's usefulness is at an end, they will do away with him.
From the Neck to Blackwater, the land drowns in fire and blood. On one side marches the banners of the North, the Vale, the Riverlands, and the Westerlands united under the claim of young Eddard Lannister. They are commanded by Stannis Baratheon, Jon Snow, Jon Royce, and the Blackfish. On the other side rises the power of the Reach and the Stormlands, Marjorie Tyrell's realm of roses and thunder. Randall Tarley rushes to meet them from Maidenpool and engages them on the banks of the Trident, where he intercepts their charge. He trains his soldiers to perfection, following a carefully organized defense. The Blackfish strikes at several points to try and force a crossing, but to no avail. Farther west, Stannis makes a run for Harrenhal, but faces Garland Tyrell, where both sides blood themselves along its ruins. While Garland kills many respected warriors, he must yield the castle. Meanwhile, in the Westerlands, Sir Adam and Kevan organize an invasion of the Reach. They storm through the hills and strike at Old Oaks. After a brutal siege, the heir to Ashmark leads a daring charge that breaks their defenses and allows them to scale the walls. Yet elsewhere, the defenses hold thanks to Loras Tyrell's daring maneuvers. He is not satisfied with waiting for the enemy to approach and plugs up any gaps, then storms into the Riverlands to organize daring strikes that shatter enemy units before fading into the countryside. Time and again, Jon Snow leads daring assaults through the Riverlands, only for Tarly's men to outflank and drive them back. Jon Royce and Harold Harding try to open up a second front in the Stormlands by sailing down there, but their attempts fail as Marjorie and Olenna send out their secret weapon, the remnants of the Faith Militant. With the High Sparrow's humiliation, he is badly weakened, and Olenna organizes a coup and positions a new leader to lead the remnants, one who supports their mission. They throw themselves into the front, providing fresh soldiers for the war effort. It becomes a war of thrust and counter-thrust, neither side able to strike the killing blow. The land bleeds, the Smallfolk starve, and yet still the banners rise. And in the shadows, Olenna works her poison. Letters spread like wildfire, letters that whisper of Peter Baelish's dealings with Stark and Tyrell alike, of his promises to the Boltons and to Sansa, of how he helped spread rumors of Joffrey. Lords mutter, soldiers desert, alliances strain. Stannis confirms this, as he had spent years in the council with him and recognizes him as a snake in the grass. Some lords call for Littlefinger's betrayal to be addressed first. Even Sansa cannot ignore the situation. She agrees that he must be dealt with, and their fighting slowly dies down, which allows the Reachmen to rebuild and fortify. While Lysa tries to protect Littlefinger, the Vale Lords have now come to respect Sansa more, and with the support of the Lannisters and Stannis, they present a strong case and have Lord Baelish arrested. Yet the stalemate deepens. Armies clash and part, castles change hands only to be lost again, and crops burn in their fields. Both sides grow wary. Then, the sky changes. One morning, as Randyll Tarly rallies his men near Bitterbridge, a report passes over the camp. Dragons, black and green and cream. Wings vast enough to blot the sun. They appear off the marches. Daenerys Stormborn has come at last. Where once the war was balanced, now it tilts, as the War of the Five Kings has ended, and the War of the Three Queens begins. Castles surrender rather than face the dragon's fire. Lords who had held firm to Marjorie bend knee in fear of wings and flame. The Reach still rallies, but its proud host burns in fields of fire. Across the realm, men whisper that the time of wolves and roses is ended. The age of dragons has returned. The first lords to fall are those of the marches. As Daenerys emerges from Dorne, border banners raise to bar her path. House Caron, House Peake, and sworn men of the Stormlands. They gather their knights in glittering array of steel, flashing under the morning sun, horns sounding defiance. And then the sky darkens once more. The dragons ascend. Flame blooms across the field, green and orange and white hot, turning men and horses into shrieking shadows. Spears shatter, banners ignite, and armored knights melt inside their steel. Arrows are fired and bounce off dragon scales, while the Unsullied form their smoking walls, and Dothraki circle, cutting down survivors. In the Riverlands, Sansa wages her war. With Royce, Harding, and her northern lords, she hurls her armies against the Reach. They burn fields, topple towers, and break small hosts, slowly forcing the Tyrells back. For the first time in a long campaign, the wolf banners edge closer to the Crownlands. Randyll Tarly organizes a trap as his host withdraws along the God's Eye. Sansa's host advances, banners high, until the fields erupt in emerald fire. Wildfire pours across her vanguard, men and horses alike consumed in terrible green light. Screams rise higher than horns, the smell of cooked flesh rolling across the plain. Men rush towards the water, and Jon is caught in the middle as longbowmen rain arrows upon them. He manages to rally his men and fight his way out just as the Tyrell men-at-arms descend upon them. The wolf advance shatters, halted by the Mad King's own vaults. Meanwhile, Daenerys' host surges north, and the plump fields of the Reach are ripe for the taking. Others stream towards the Stormlands, leaving their armies falling back when they can and burning when they can't. But at King's Landing, Olenna and Marjorie weave their countermove. The High Sparrow is dead, but the sparrows live on, and hunger makes zealots of men. Upon the Sept's steps, Olenna lets the poor taste her words like honeyed poison.
These dragons are not your saviors. They are demons, scourges, false gods. The Northmen and the Kingsmen, they do not pray to the Seven. They are pagans and heretics, yet they claim themselves to be your rulers, all while my house has put upon your table and served you piously.
Marjorie walks among the people with bare feet, her hands clasped as though in prayer, her beauty radiant, her voice soft and pleading.
I am your queen. I will share your hunger, your fear, your hope. Together we will cast out the dragon. There shall be no feasts in the Red Keep, only fasts and prayer until this war is won.
The small folk rise in their thousands, armed with cudgels, knives, and pitchforks. They march under the warrior's sun and poor fellows' banners, driven forward by fiery sermons, and at their head rides Sir Loras Tyrell, gleaming once more in his silvered armor. When they clash with Daenerys' host outside Rook's Rest, the queen falters, not because they are particularly skilled, but because these small folk were the people she was fighting for, those she wished to save. They die in droves, but this hesitation costs them dearly as the Dothraki and Unsullied claim Rook's Rest for themselves. Hidden casks ignite beneath her vanguard, tearing Unsullied apart, throwing Dothraki screaming into the sky. Daenerys reels as her host staggers in fire and confusion, yet she is blamed for this. Survivors claim it was the dragons that burned the castle to the ground. Daenerys did this in anger for the defiance of the people. The defiance of Duskendale is whispered, and Daenerys wishes to repeat it. While she won the battle, she is losing the hearts of the people. Now, everywhere she goes, the people are resistant to her. They do not welcome her with cheers. Some hide their food and gold, others flee their villages. Still, they cannot do anything to stop Highgarden from being besieged. Flame pours over its golden fields, and the seat of House Tyrell burns. Mace Tyrell falls with his halls, roasted alive beneath the banner of his house. Yet, rather than being seen as a success, the Smallfolk curse her name. Some now begin to resist, as the villagers she had marched through ambush her supply lines. They murder the Dornishmen and Dothraki in her armies, who pillage their homes, and her forces may well rot in the vine. Seeing this, Daenerys urges her forces to King's Landing, unwilling to simply wait and see their forces collapse to attrition. Seeing this, Stannis gathers some 5,000 men. With the dragons and the speed of her army, there is a worry that they might not make it in time. So he takes his troops and rushes her line, knowing that each minute they buy is another for Jon Snow to reach the capital. He smashes into the Unsullied line, letting his men-at-arms clash with them while the wildlings flank their lines. The few giants he had batter the lines and opens gaps before being forced into an infantry square, but this allows the dragons to descend and burn his line down. Still, as Stannis burns, he knows that he is guaranteed that Sansa and Jon will reach the capital first. The dragon fire consumes him. Stannis Baratheon dies, unbent, unyielding, but burned all the same. The remaining Reachmen make their stand there, but the walls are not designed to stop giants, which Jon finally unleashes. They smash through the gates and allow the men-at-arms to pour in. Randyll Tarly falls defending the Red Keep, but Marjorie, Olenna, and the rest of their family manage to escape across the narrow sea. With the capital in their control, Jon Snow gathers the giants for one last stratagem. He places them in the wooded halls outside of Gold Road, their bows drawn, their great spears sharpened. When Daenerys' army advances, the giants strike like thunder. Arrows as vast as lances tear through the cavalry, spears hurled skyward, and with shattered roar, Viserion writhes, broken on the earth. Though the army loses heavily, Daenerys' casualties are irreplaceable. For the first time since she set foot in Westeros, Daenerys Targaryen halts. The dragon pit looms like a scar on King's Landing, its blackened dome shattered but still vast enough to hold half the lords of Westeros. Banners hang in tatters, smoke stains the air, and the city beyond groans with famine and fear. Yet here the realm is gathered. The lords are tired, their coffers are empty, their levies bled white. Famine creeps in from the Reach, rebellion smolders in the Riverlands. Daenerys Targaryen, Sansa Stark, and Marjorie Tyrell all sit.
I am Daenerys Stormborn, rightful queen of Westeros, and I have broken my enemies with fire and blood. Yet I did not come to build a new tyranny.
You say that, yet half the realm bears the burns from your invasion. They say you burn the castles you cannot capture, all for a dynasty you cannot sustain. Some may call that tyranny, just like your ancestor, Aegon IV.
How dare you?
I dare because you claim to be for the people, yet it is my house the lords and smallfolk have rallied around. My son, Eddard Lannister Stark, is heir to both North and South. The lords have rallied to him because they see hope in his name.
If I recall, the lords were the only ones who answered your call, Lady Stark. Who will speak for the people? The highborn argue for crowns and heirs, but the people of King's Landing, of the Reach, of the storm-lashed coasts, they starve. They die. I am no longer queen, but I am still their voice. The commoners shout my name.
The lords murmur again, voices raising. Glover and Manderly from the north, Tarly and Redwyn from the Reach, Royce and Corbray from the Vale. Some grumble, some assent. All know the realm can bear no more war. At last, the decision is struck. Daenerys is crowned Queen of Westeros, but not as an absolute monarch. A council of great houses, Stark, Tyrell, Lannister, Arryn, Baratheon, will sit at her side, their voices binding her will. Sansa is confirmed as Queen Mother. Her son Eddard is recognized as heir due to Daenerys' barrenness. Half the realm swears to him already, and Daenerys, though proud, concedes the need for an undisputed succession. Marjorie lays down her crown, yet it does little to diminish her power. She remains the most beloved woman in King's Landing, the darling of the people, her roses entwined with every corner of the realm. And so the war ends, not with victory, but with compromise. The dragon sits on the throne, the wolf raises the air, and the rose binds the hearts of the realm. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.